To the Pub Sports Radio college basketball closing time show for Tuesday, January 19th. Ian Cameron and Conor back with you, ready to break down this Tuesday college basketball card. And pretty interesting slate, couple of good games on tap in a multiple conferences. So looking forward to breaking this card down from a personal betting standpoint. I've got to put this full disclosure out there and word of warning and caution to everyone listening to at least to my opinions on this card. I've had my ass kicked in college basketball for the last few days. It's been tough. It has been bad bets, bad calls on my part. There's certainly been a few of those where it's just a wrong side. Look at Louisville last night. What a wrong side that ended up being against Florida State. So much for a bounce back spot for Louisville against a short-handed Florida State team. But really a lot of bad beats too. A lot of second half collapses, which have been the theme really the last several days. There's been a bunch of them. And I've definitely had a handful of them, or bet a handful of those games where it was a collapse from the team that was up big at halftime. So it's been a struggle, but you push on through. This is the time of year I usually struggle personally in college basketball a little bit, January into February, because I've had distinct performance patterns with my betting results in this sport where I get off to this great start, November, December. I'm in great form. I'm rolling. And then I hit late January into February. It's like clockwork every freaking year. And I start, hitting the skids a little bit and the nasty slump starts. And we're at that point right now in the season. And then I get it going again in conference tournaments and the NCAA tournament, which have been great for me in years past. And I'm hoping it's more of the same with that this year. So it's been a struggle, but still going to go forward. What I've done is I've gone a very small, like quarter, half unit bets across the board in college basketball for the time being until we get out of this slump. I think that's the best way to treat it. Conor, when you're struggling, how do you handle it when things aren't going your way?
I don't handle it. It drives me nuts. After all these years, I don't know. It's just, I don't think I've changed anything. I try to stay the same because over time, after all these years, I've always changed the bet size sometimes, changed the amount. That never seemed to work. So I just stay the course. I always think of the next day. And I've had a few bad days myself, probably the last 3 or 4 days, Evan Midling. But yesterday was bad. The Kansas side, the under, it was bad. I had Louisville. I thought they'd bounce back. The Air Force over, went under by 1 point. So a few bad beats.
Like that just dry. Like you're just so close. And so many of mine are so close. Look at yesterday. I had Wilmington against Towson. Wilmington's up, or looks like they're going to come back in that game and they end up losing, of course. And I thank goodness I didn't go back to the revenge factor in Wilmington because they just lost a minute ago to Towson in the rematch too. Little things like that. What else have I've had so many of these that have just been brutal. Hofstra. I had Hofstra minus 3.5 at Delaware on Sunday, and they're up like by double digits. I think they got out to like 15-2 or something lead in that game, and they don't end up winning or cover, or they won but they didn't cover by 1. That's the kind of stuff that I've been having to deal with some of these games the last week or so, and that's what happens when you're in a skid. You get the bad beats and the bad bets
real quick. But when you're like us, we do it every day. It's just going to happen. Like we've been doing, we're college basketball.
Yeah,
every game,
3 days a week, talking every game on the card. We're gonna have tough beats. We're gonna have bad calls. It's just the way it is.
So, but it will, I know it'll get better because it always does, because I know my percentage usually at the end of the thing. But you're right. Usually this is the time of year conference starts. Sometimes there's just been wacky games with COVID, no fans, big weird swings, like you said, second halves that are just been like, whoa, what the hell, to teams up and they lose. But it's good. We're going to get into it. Conference play is going to get real deep. It'll be real thick college basketball here. Football's about to end, so it'll get exciting, and we'll have a tournament this year. So can't beat that. So I'm ready to roll, brother.
No doubt. And that's why I wanted to start the show that way. Personally, I wanted to talk about it and bring it up because not enough sports betting shows on YouTube, and man, there's more of them you can shake a stick at now. There was barely any 5 years ago. When I was, right in the infancy of actually 5 to 8 years ago when I started full time as a sports bettor and handicapper, there was no YouTube content for sports betting, hardly any. And now everybody and his brother, everyone known to man, is involved in a sports betting show of some kind, but not enough of them confront the issues of what happens. What do you do when you struggle and you're in a bad funk? and you're in a losing streak. What do you do? How do you handle it? Not enough people talk about those moments because they happen to everybody. And that's exactly what I thought was worth talking about here to begin this show. How do we handle it when we're in a slump? Because I'm certainly in one in this sport right now. Thank goodness NBA's still been okay, and thank goodness NHL's gotten off to a nice start, because that's what's carrying me through these rough waters here in college basketball for the last several days. And let's see if we can find some winners, though. I still like this board. We're keeping everything smaller with our wager amounts, but there's still things I like. Let's get to it. Buffalo and Kent State in Akron to begin the card, 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific. Kent State 4-point favorites here, 163.5 the total in this one. Should be a pretty good matchup here in the MAC. Kent State 6-3 on the season, 6-2 against the spread. It's been a very, very good point spread team. I wouldn't be in a rush to lay 4 with them here in this game against Buffalo, coming off probably one of Buffalo's worst games in a worst shooting performances, at least in a very long time, 76-69. Not often you're going to see Buffalo shoot 23 of 66 from the field, but they did that in the loss against Bowling Green. I think they're going to bounce back. When you look at them after a loss this year, they've scored, bounced back and scored a lot of points in the next games, 78 after a loss, 81 after a loss. They lost to Syracuse. They had 86 points the next game. They've been an over machine as well. 7-1 to the over in their last 8 games. You look at Kent State, on the other hand, 2 straight overs. And again, they played Ohio. They played Central Michigan. Ohio's a moderate pace team. Central Michigan, very fast. Those 2 teams pulled Kent State to 168 and 179 in terms of total points. I think this total's, you don't say that often about 163.5. This total's low for this game because Buffalo's going to shoot a lot better. You know it. After just 69 points the next game. They're too good offensively. They got a great backcourt. They got guys in the low post that can deliver as well from an offensive standpoint. On the flip side, Kent State's gotten to the high 70s, 80s the last couple. This has points written all over it. I also lean Buffalo a little bit. The more this number creeps up, you can get +4 here on the Bulls. I lean Buffalo, but I really like this total. It's one of my stronger opinions on the day. Hopefully that means something despite the recent struggles. Over 163.5 here for me here with Buffalo Kent State. I actually bet it at 161, so it's moved up a little bit. I would still look in that direction though at the current 163.5. C-Mac, what do you think here about this Maction affair?
Yeah, I'd lean the over, but these MAC games, sometimes, like you said, the weird shooting, they score a ton of points. I'd lean the over. I didn't bet it. And I'd take Buffalo as well. I don't think they'll shoot that bad again. I'd grab the points with them. I think Kent State's okay. I don't think they're at the tippity top of the MAC this year. And I think Buffalo shoots it better. I'd lean a little bit with Buffalo and the +4 as well.
All right, on we go now. We've got Purdue and Ohio State. Great Big Ten matchup here. Ohio State 5-point favorites, 136.5 the total. The lean for me is Ohio State to be sure in this game. That's not a team I'm in any rush to bet against right now. What's been amazing about Ohio State, in this great run that they've put together, 11-3 now on the season. In Big Ten play, they've won 3 straight, 4 of their last 5. Rutgers, Northwestern, Illinois was the very impressive win in their last game. But what's been really impressive about Ohio State is they've managed to play good basketball, win games, and keep their offense going without their starting point guard. It's insane. You would think that's going to eventually at some point, affect your offense, but having CJ Walker injured with that hand injury, it just hasn't happened. They've just kept on going. They've been able to shoot a high percentage. The offense hasn't suffered. CJ Walker out. His backup too is Jimmy Sotos. He's also been injured. So they've had to go really deep into their depth chart there in the backcourt. And they've also had to use some of their front court guys, their power forwards, as ball handlers, really to deal with the cluster of injuries at the point guard spot. And yet they've just kept on rolling. They've the guys that have stepped up for more court time, more minutes in the absence of these 2 guards have allowed this Ohio State team to keep on rolling, offensively. So to see them withstand these injuries and still play well and beat good teams, shorthanded against Illinois, a damn good team, and still beat them in impressive fashion and lead wire to wire. That shows you some depth that this Ohio State team has. I don't know if I trust Purdue on the road as much as I do at home. I know they're off a nice win against Penn State. They did beat Indiana at home. They beat Michigan State when the Spartans were struggling, but they lost as well to Illinois, Rutgers, and Iowa on the road. I think Ohio State's closing in on some of those upper tier teams here in the Big Ten with the way they've been playing as of late. 4-1 straight up, 4-1 against the spread their last 5 games. I certainly lean to the home team here in the Buckeyes at -5. Connor, what do you think here?
I'm with you as well. I think even without the point guard you're talking about, Walker, they just keep on chugging. Not only I like the 5 here, I like the over 136. Purdue scored a bit more, and they're just not as good as a team on the road, I believe. And Ohio State is one of the higher scoring teams in the Big Ten. I've been on the last couple of games, they're overs, and they've cashed against Northwestern and Illinois. They've been playing regularly in the 80s. I think they cover this one. I think Purdue's played better basketball. I don't find too much of that win at Michigan State. Michigan State's just not that good this year. It was an okay road win, but over the years, like I've always said, Matt Painter, fade him on the road, and I'm going to fade him here with 5. So I like Ohio State, and I like the over 136.5.
Yeah, it's important to note that when you're doing schedule analysis and you see, a team on January whatever beat Michigan State, it's not just about who you play, it's when you play them. And you've got to know the circumstance when you play them. A win over Michigan State when they're playing well, like early in the season when they were playing well, that means a lot more than a win over Michigan State, say last, a few weeks ago when they were really struggling and in a funk. You can't put the same weight and value on a win over Michigan State when they were in a massive losing skid as you would if you played them early in the year when they were playing their best basketball. Kind of like let's compare that to, say, the NFL. The Dallas Cowboys. We beat Dallas in week 2. Okay, that's great. Dak Prescott's there. And then this team beats them in week 9. Oh, yeah, but that's Andy Dalton. So let's calm down. What win over Dallas means more when you played them? Week 2 with Dak Prescott or week 9 with Andy Dalton? So, again, it's not always when you're analyzing schedule strength and past opponents and past results. It's not always just who you played and who you beat, when you beat them, when you played them. That matters. Did you play them when their best player was hurt? Did you play them when they were fully healthy? Did you play them when they were playing good basketball at the time? Did you play them when they were struggling and couldn't win a game at the time? That's definitely something I've learned over the years. It makes a huge difference in terms of handicapping each individual team, their opponent, and also their schedule up to this point. So that's something I wanted to mention because you always have to value it differently in that category. Kansas State, Oklahoma. We've got the Sooners 14-point home favorites here, 136 the total in this game. Kansas State, believe it or not, on the road, they haven't had many true road games, but this is probably the point spread role where they've actually been serviceable this year, this Kansas State team. Road underdogs. You look at them in Big 12 road games, Connor. At Iowa State, lose by 9, but they went outright. Sorry, in that one as underdogs. At Texas Tech, they lose by 11 as 16-point dogs, and at Texas they just slip inside the number 16.5. They were in their last game. They end up losing 80-67. Yeah, so this is why. Look, nobody ragged on Kansas State more than CMAC and I did early in the season. We talked about how bad they were, but the number has caught up to how bad they were early in the season. And moving forward, you can actually reasonably expect that maybe Kansas State, you could be actually, if you bet them every game from here on out, you might be able to make some money. They're still bad. They're still not very good a basketball team, but they're starting to cover some numbers. Like I said, 3-3 in their last 6, but especially in this road underdog role when they're getting a lot of points, that's where they've been good. Question is, do you trust them against Oklahoma? I don't know what to make of Oklahoma. I don't know if I trust them laying 14, and I don't know if I can lay 14 with them just because they beat up on TCU, who look like they've quit, who look like they are just beyond hope at this point. 82-46, that was ugly, that beatdown that Oklahoma had over TCU. You worry about that a little bit. Looks like Brady Manick has a chance to return for this game. He's missed the last 2 games due to contact tracing with COVID. He might return, and that's obviously would be a huge boost to this Oklahoma Sooners team. Jalen Hill's also been out for the last couple of games. So chance they get both of those guys back here for Oklahoma, which would certainly be significant, help out Austin Reeves, some of these other scorers for the Sooners. So for me, it would be a lean K-State for sure. They're 3-0 ATS in this Big 12 road dog roll. and that says take them tonight. So I don't know if I will, but I lean in that direction with the points here with the Wildcats. Connor, what do you think?
Me too. This is one of the last games I have circled if I want to play. I like Oklahoma, but I don't like Oklahoma laying 14. With Manic, I don't know if he's going to play or not. And I do like a 14, but I think this is the role of K-State. And you can make money off bad teams getting huge spreads. I've done it for years and years and years. I've done it the last few times with K-State. They just snuck in against Texas. You can call it luck, whatever you want. The last 5 minutes, they made shots and covered. Basically, I wouldn't lay it with Oklahoma. Just like you said, Ian, either I take K-State in the points or just pass. If you're going to lay with Oklahoma, just be ready. Be sweating a little bit just in case. I mean, They could blow them out. Of course, they have a really good team, and I'm pretty high on Oklahoma, but I don't know about 14 here. So yeah, just as you said, I look to K-State in the points or just pass on this one.
Yeah, and keep in mind, TCU was horrific. I don't think it's difficult to be. I think it's hard to be any worse than they were in that game against Oklahoma. I don't know if I'd want to bank on that happening with Kansas State here tonight in this game. Ball State and Miami, Ohio. Back to action we go. Ball State 3.5-point road favorites. 137 the total in this game. This is pretty much when you look at this matchup here. A couple of middle of the pack teams in this conference. But when it's all said and done, Ball State up and down. You could say the same definitely about Miami of O, although they've lost 3 of their last 4. All good competition, though. Buffalo, Bradley, Ohio were the 3 losses for the Miami, Ohio Redhawks. Same thing with Ball. Ball's beaten lost to the good teams in the conference, and they've beaten up on Northern Illinois, in their last game, one of the weaker teams in the conference. So we'll see how this one goes. In terms of on the road, we've seen, this Ball State team be able to cover some numbers here on the road, but now they're in a situation where they're going to have to lay 3.5 here at home. I think that could be a little bit dicey. It's been a lot of just inconsistent results for both of these teams when you look at their season to this point. It's worth noting, by the way, though, the under 4 straight head-to-head meetings between these two teams have gone under the total, and this number's gone down a little bit. And if you believe in series history, that's the way you're going to go. I'm passing on this game, but people liking the under, maybe looking at that series history, 4 straight unders between Ball State and Miami, Ohio. C-Mac, what's your thoughts on this game?
All right, one sec. Sorry, I'm on. I lean towards the under too. This is a tough one. Like you said, both teams are just beating up on the bad teams. I don't see much in it. I just passed. I take the points. That would be it. This one was a quick one for me. I want nothing to do with Miami, Ohio, or Ball State in this spot. So I just picked it off real quick. I'd lean under though, like you said, just slightly. I'm at 137. It's not big, but lean under this total a little bit.
I can't believe we're going to get to Maryland, Michigan now in the Big Ten. Michigan 10.5-point home favorites, 140.5 the total. That tells you the rough few days now I've had in college basketball. All you need to know is I was a day late, $1 short, and 1 game late, or 1 game early, I should say, betting against Michigan because I took Wisconsin against them last week. They get absolutely blown out, and we're all gushing over Michigan. And I think they kind of read their press clippings a little bit because they went to Minnesota on the weekend, and it was just all Golden Gophers on the weekend against Michigan. Michigan loses 75-57. Really poor shooting game. I guess they were due to have one. I mean, for as good as they have a shooting group, this Michigan team, you could tell that they were going to have a little bit of a setback or some kind of regression shooting the basketball at some point. And Minnesota was good defensively. Juwan Howard said their defense wasn't bad, but again, they just he turned the ball over a lot. 23 points off turnovers for Minnesota in that win against Michigan. It's definitely you would think a bounce back spot for them. We'll see if they're able to do it here. It looks like in terms of this game, Eli Brooks, foot injury, questionable right now for this Michigan team going into this game. So that means it's going to be a lot more on Franz Wagner, Isaiah Livers, the guys like that to produce for this Michigan team. I've pretty much said after the Wisconsin game, I'm not betting against Michigan anytime soon. And now that they've been humbled a little bit after that loss against Minnesota, there's no way I'm going against them here. Although I will digress about 1 point with Maryland. On the road in Big Ten play, they've been feisty. They lost by 3, covered at Purdue, won outright as underdogs at Wisconsin, in Madison at the Kohl Center, only lost by 8 at Indiana, won outright at Illinois, this Maryland team. They've been good in this role, just like we talked about kind of with K-State and as Big 12 road dogs. Big 10 road dogs have been good to this Maryland team. So I think there's a case to be made to take the points here with the Terrapins, but you would think Michigan, just absolutely seething after the game on Saturday, that they're going to want to bounce back strong. And as we saw against Wisconsin on this home floor at the Chrysler Center, Michigan's A game is good enough to cover this number. The question is, will they? So it's a pass for me. C-Mac, what about you? Maryland, Michigan.
Yeah, this is a tough pass for me. I'd like to take Maryland. I might a little bit small. I just know I think Michigan's going to come out, like you said, they're going to be pissed off. But you got to lay the number. The book is making, they're putting Michigan starting up there. I'm right now at 10.5 in this game. You talked about it, Ian. Maryland has been good on the road. They lost to Purdue by 3. They beat Wisconsin by 6. You nailed it, 8 or 7 to Indiana. They just beat Illinois 66-63. So I don't know. I think Maryland's not as bad as you think. And 10.5 is a lot of points here. There'd only be one side I'd play, and that's Maryland getting the points instead of laying it with Michigan. So I'd only look to Maryland catching the 10.5.
All right, Butler, DePaul. DePaul 1-point home favorites, 135 the total. This is letdown written all over it for Butler after the big home win against Creighton. Really nice performance from the Bulldogs. We've talked about this with Bulldogs for a few shows in a row now, and we talk about a Butler game. They're as healthy as they've been all season, and they're starting to play better. They're starting to win games. They're starting to cover some numbers. I hate them in this spot, though. It's got just a letdown situation written all over it, going on the road now to face lowly DePaul. The problem is I can't trust DePaul to beat anybody right now. So this is a game where it's just two teams I don't want to back tonight. It's a pass for me in this one. Connor, what about you with Butler DePaul Big East action?
Yeah, if I had to play it, I look DePaul a little bit. I don't love it. They beat up on Valpo. They covered that game. They had that game against UConn and just folded in the last 3 minutes there. Just turnover after turnover after turnover. I had UConn. That's why I watched the end of it. 60-53. I think DePaul's not that bad. I think Butler's coming off high. I lean DePaul in the 1, and I lean maybe the over a little bit. DePaul slowed it down a little bit, but I know at their heart, I know they want to get up and down. I just don't know if we get over that 134.5.
All right, next up, we've got Miami, Syracuse. Syracuse 4.5-point home favorites, 140.5 the total. What I know is you got to be some kind of shit to give up 96 points to Pittsburgh. And that's exactly what happened with Syracuse on Saturday. Unbelievable, wretched performance at the defensive end of the court against a team that can't even shoot straight half the time, the Pitt Panthers. Absolutely awful from Syracuse. So I understand that, they've lost a couple in a row. They're back home. You would think this is a circle the wagon spot. Whatever A game Syracuse has, you're going to see it here. But there's issues. I mean, that 2-3 zone is it's made of cotton candy and plastic right now. It's not stealth by any stretch of the imagination at this point. They're struggling right now to execute that. Buddy Boeheim, it seems like he's got to have a big game, and Guerrier, the guard as well, for them to have a big performance offensively. They're still without Sidibe as well, who's been out for a period of time with the knee injury. So there's issues with Syracuse right now. I get it, that they're back home. They're off 2 humbling losses. It's time to bounce back, but I don't know if they will. And Miami, all they are is a hard-working, hard-trying team. They've battled injuries all year. We haven't had Chris Likes all year. We talk about it every game with them. McGusty's always questionable. Well, McGusty's upgraded to probable. He is going to play tonight for Miami. They're coming off a nice win against Louisville over the weekend. This is a Miami team that, in the road underdog role, you look at what they've done. They covered at Virginia Tech, lost by 2, won outright at NC State. Against Louisville as home dogs, they won outright. At home against Clemson, lost by 2. Home against North Carolina, lost by 2. They've been in every game. This is a tough team to beat by margin, and I don't think Syracuse is even good enough form to beat them by margin right now. So I understand they're angry. Anger doesn't equal that they're going to automatically win and cover tonight. I like Jimmy Laranaga's Hurricanes here, plus 4.5 in this one. Connor, what do you think?
Me too. I don't think Syracuse should be laying. It should be one, maybe a pick 'em, not 4.5. You're right. That zone is not very tough to beat. You can get open shots. Other than that stinker with Boston College, yeah, Miami's been in all these games and all these games tight. Normally, I like them at home, like a dog or small points, but they've been good on the road, except for that Boston College game. Like you said, the 2-point loss to Tech, and then they beat NC State. I grabbed the 4.5 here with Miami, and with McGusty maybe going to play. I think he is, from what I heard. I gotta love the 4.5 here with Miami. Gotta take it.
Yeah, he is going to play, and yeah, we both like Miami. Akron Bowling Green as we go back to the MAC. Return of the MAC. It is a return of the MAC. You know that I'll be back. Bowling Green here, 5.5-point home favorites. 153 the total in this one. That was a one-hit wonder. Mark Morrison back in the 90s. I love that. MAC. A good one. I like the over here. I agree with the total move here, 150 to 153. Bowling Green, good offense, fast pace. Akron's really picked it up offensively of late. I'm going to keep it simple. I'm not in play with the side. I think we just see some points scored here. Akron, Bowling Green, I'm on it over the total. Conor, what do you think here with the Zips and the Falcons?
I'm with you on the over. I think this gets over as well. And I lean Akron a little bit. Bowling Green's played really, really well, but Akron has played well. They just beat Toledo, which I had Toledo the other day.
Yep. And Bowling Green beat Buffalo. They're off really good wins in both of these teams. Yep.
Yeah, both off good wins. So I haven't done it, but I like at 5.5. I think Akron could stay in this ball game, and definitely lean the over here as well.
All right, leaning Akron plus the points in the over. On we go, Tennessee, Florida. We've got the Vols 7-point road favorites in the Swamp, 135.5 the total. Yeah, I definitely had Tennessee circled as a bet in this game. Problem is that the line opened exactly, actually a touch higher than I thought it would. I thought Tennessee would have been 5-6. They're actually 7 in this game, so not the value I was hoping for. I think Florida's going to struggle to score tonight. They're not the best offensive team by any stretch. And when you look at Tennessee, yeah, they've had some setbacks, but they played a really fast-paced, offensively potent Alabama team that they lost to. They faced some pretty good teams that can score the basketball. Florida, not quite that level of potency when it comes to shooting and putting the biscuit in the basket. It should be a good matchup for Tennessee here in this one. I lean to them a little bit, but the number's a bit higher than I would have liked. Totals come down. I would probably agree a little bit with that in terms of the under money. Conor, what do you think here? Tennessee, Florida.
Yeah, this one's got me scratching a little bit. I still think Tennessee gets it done here at 7. It's one of the ones I have circled down here that I'm kind of on the fence on. The big key is Florida without Lewis. They're just not the same team. And without him, I think Tennessee can do what they want. I think they cover this. I just is not a high on my card here. I'd lean with Tennessee -7 here.
Yeah, again, you really got it. There's at this time of year too, when the grind of the conference schedule, You're playing every other day and you're facing teams they're tough games because all the coaches and the opposing teams know what you're like because they face you every season. It's a grind, and it's not always easy to cover these kind of numbers on the road, even though you're, one of the better teams in the country like Tennessee is. So that's always the little caveat and the concern you have laying these kind of prices. Next up, South Carolina, Missouri, staying in the SEC. We've got Missouri 5.5 at home. The total in this game right around 145.5. The total's gone up in this. I understand the total going up from a South Carolina standpoint. But from a Missouri standpoint, they usually like to slow it down. They played very good defense for the most part this year. You throw out the bad game they had at Mississippi State. Other than that, they've given up just 68. They've given up 52. They gave up 73 to Tennessee, but a very good team. So they've been very good defensively. South Carolina, a team that defensively against better teams, I have my worries about them. You look at their results. They've given up 90 to Alabama, 90 to Georgia. They've given up 85 in their last game to LSU on the road. They did cover because they scored 80, but gave up 85 in the process. There's a big difference in gap between these two teams defensively. And I think Missouri is the better of these two teams right now. I would look toward Missouri. It's a short enough number where I did lay the 5.5 here with the Missouri Tigers. I think they get the win and the cover at home. CMAC, what about you? South Carolina, Missouri.
Yeah, I lean Missouri. This one really, I looked at this game deep. I back Missouri a lot this year. I think they're a pretty good basketball team, and that's why I think they'll win this game. The cover might maybe is defensively. I just like their defense. They play a lot better D. South Carolina isn't that bad. They played pretty good. I mean, they lost by 5 to LSU. They stayed close. They beat A&M. You know, they lost by 8 to Houston. They beat Tulsa. They're no pushover, so this one could be close. That's why I wasn't jumping right away taking Missouri. But I think Missouri's the lean, I'd say, on this game with the 5.5.
Yeah, and if you're Missouri, shut down A.J. Lawson, who is one of the few consistent
Yeah.
weapons for South Carolina. You do that, you're going to be in good shape. And defensively, they've been smart enough to sort of take away, like the Belichick mantra, take away the best player on the opposing team, and you're usually going to be in pretty good shape. That's certainly something I would look at that for Missouri tonight if they're going to win this game. Shut down Lawson. Central Michigan, Toledo. We've got Toledo, 15-point home favorites, 157 the total. Well, the freight train that is Toledo against the spread, it finally came to a halt in their last game against Akron. Now the question is, do you jump right back, or do you say, okay, it finally didn't cover Toledo? Maybe now we pump the brakes now and just maybe sit back and wait to see if maybe the worm turns a little bit and Toledo now maybe becomes a little bit overvalued after this incredible point spread machine type streak they've had. Problem is, I would think they're going to try to really play well tonight after that loss against Akron, and Central Michigan doesn't stop anybody at the defensive end of the basketball court. They go up and down. All they care about is getting their shots off, scoring some points. They don't play a lick of defense. I think that's bad news against Toledo. I think Toledo is going to scorch the Nets. It's just a question of, do they scorch them enough to cover this kind of number? I would certainly not get in Toledo's way, but I'm going to pump the brakes after they finally failed to cover. I'm going to pump the brakes on laying 15, but I do like this game over 157. We should see a bunch of points here with the Rockets and the Chippewas. Both of these teams, certainly Toledo, excellent offensively, and Central Michigan, their strength is offense than defense. Connor, what do you think here? Central Michigan, Toledo.
Yeah, lean the over. Both teams, especially Central Michigan, no defense. Toledo's going to score at will. I don't know about 15. I'm not tonight. This is too high. They could win by 20, but I got to pass on this number. Central Michigan is that bad, but they could muck it up and stay in this game, especially if Toledo gets a little lazy defensively, which they can at times. So it's just a lean, Toledo, but I don't love it. It's a little too many points there.
All right, Pac-12 play, USC, Oregon State. So it's like just the only Pac-12 game tonight. It's like it's just it landed on the schedule accidentally, but here it is, USC and Oregon State. USC 10.5 point road favorites, 137.5 the total in this game. Oregon State is kind of like a Kansas State of the Pac-12. Could this team maybe have some point spread value? I'll be honest. I was impressed they won outright at home against Arizona State. And that's a pretty solid Arizona State team. 6-point home underdogs. They win 80-79. Following a game where I actually bet against Oregon State with Arizona, and they lost 98-64. I actually bet against Oregon State again on Saturday, and that's when Arizona State beat them. So now I'm a little more hesitant, to go against the Beavers as double-digit home underdogs. Although the fact of fading USC is difficult. They've won 6 straight. Many of them have been by double digits. They've just fell short of the cover, thankfully, against Washington State on Saturday, 85-77. I was on Washington State. They got it done, plus the points against USC. But USC to me is they've really found their footing offensively. There's no doubt about it. They are surging at that end of the basketball court. They're playing very good basketball in terms of offensively. This freshman, Evan Mobley, continues to be fantastic, really, for USC. He's averaging 16.2 points per game. Seems to be getting better with every game right now for the USC Trojans. And again, they've got great offensive balance right now, and that could be trouble because Oregon State's defense is not exactly shut down. So I don't know if USC covers. It's because Oregon State did show a pulse against Arizona State. I think this total going down is kind of head scratching to me. I think USC is going to score their points. We saw Oregon State light up Arizona State a little bit. That was the best I've seen Ethan Thompson and the Beavers play offensively in a long time. So I think this game could get to the high 130s or 140s in this game and eclipse this reasonable total, which is around 137. So I'm going to play it over here with USC and Oregon State. Fade this market move. Connor, what do you think about this one?
I'm with you on the market move. I'm on the over. Oregon State's an over team, and I think SC, they have a shutdown defense, but I think it's enough to get up and over the total. Especially they play around it. Look at the Wazoo game. The last couple have gone over for SC, and Oregon State's 4 in a row towards the over. I just like the over here. Do you want to trust Oregon State catching 10 at home? SC is way better than Arizona State, especially defensively. But I don't want to lay 10. If I had to take it, pull my arm, Oregon State in the 10, but I don't want to do that. That makes me sick. So just stick with the over here. Stick with the over on this game. I think it'll get up and over the 137.
Yeah, I think the over is good. I think we can get to 140, and if that happens, the over is going to come through. SEMO, Tennessee State. Tennessee State 4-point favorites, 135 the total. I like Tennessee State here. I've actually made some money with Tennessee State the last few games. I trust them a hell of a lot more than I trust SEMO. They've had collapses. They're another one of those teams that have had a couple of second half collapses. Just can't find ways to close. Just can't find ways to win a lot of these games. Tennessee State, I think, could find the way to win. Question, it might be close because SEMO does play a lot of close games, but I'd rather have the team I think is going to win the game, and I think that's going to be Tennessee State. So I don't mind laying -4 here with Tennessee State in this one. C-Mac, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, I lean a little bit Tennessee State. I took them against Jacksonville State. They covered. I just don't love them laying 4. I'm a little bit pumping the brakes. I'd rather them getting 4 in these spot, in a game like this. So I'm staying away, but I'd lean Tennessee State in the 4.
All right, Penn State, Illinois. We've got Illinois minus 9.5, 10-point home favorites, 154 the total. I could only bet Illinois here, and because I just get that sense, maybe that's been probably part of the reason it's been a struggle the last few days. I'm just a day late and $1 short on these spots, like I was with betting against Michigan. I should have waited till Minnesota game. I should have maybe waited till tonight to bet Illinois because I thought it was going to be a bounce back for Illinois against Ohio State at home on Saturday, and they couldn't have started the game worse. They just dug themselves too big a hole, and they couldn't get out of it. They made a valiant effort, but they fall short against the Buckeyes. So that's 2 straight losses. And let's be honest, Illinois' got issues. They've got all the talent to be a Final Four team for Brad Underwood, with Kofi Coburn and Ayo Dosunmu, one of the best guards in the country, but consistency and really their defense is kind of eroded the last several games as well for Illinois. So that worries me when you're having to lay doubles and win by margin like this. Problem is Penn State's just not playing really well right now. You're seeing it at both ends of the floor. They can't get stops. Their offense is spotty and erratic, to say the least. They don't have some of those good shooters they had in years past, Penn State, and it's starting to show up now in their last few games. I get that sense where I took Illinois Saturday and I lost, and I'm probably not going to take them to get tonight and now watch them probably roll Penn State. I could see that happening. I'd lean home favorite here, but can't say I'm in love with laying 10 with Illinois in this one, even though Penn State's got issues. C-Mac, what do you think here?
Yeah, Penn State just kind of has too many issues defensively because I lean taking the 10 with Penn State. Like the way Illinois is playing, I don't want to lay 10 with them. Like you just said, no way. So, I mean, at Indiana, they lost by 2. At Purdue, they lost by 8. At Michigan, they lost by 4. They beat Virginia Tech. Penn State's not that bad of a basketball team. Yeah, they're not as good as last year's team or the year before that, especially shooting, as you said, Ian. I'd look to catch the 10. I just don't think Illinois has been playing great. This is a conference game. Give me the 10 instead of lay the 10 in this spot. It's just a lean, though, right now.
Yeah, it's difficult. I mean, Illinois, you're almost banking on them waking up here if you're going to lay the 10 with them. Colorado State, Utah State. Yeah,
exactly.
Utah State, 8-point favorites, 141 the total. Utah State's pretty damn impressive, but I pretty much made up my mind, early in the season, because who's been higher and spoken more glowingly about Colorado State than me all season long? Not many. I've talked about how much I really like this basketball team. I think the world of Nico Medved, the coach who is good at Drake, and he's got Colorado State into a winning team this year, 10-2, straight up for Colorado State. Problem is Utah State's been every bit as good, if not better, 11-3 straight up. How about 9-3 against the spread this year for Utah State. An impressive back-to-back home wins against San Diego State, the Aztecs. Very impressive. I mean, you beat San Diego State once is good enough. You beat them back-to-back. Extremely impressive for Utah State. Craig Smith, another really good coach. Can't say enough about him either. And it's difficult. This team is 8-0 against the spread here in Mountain West play. Covered every game so far. 8 straight point spread covers. 2-0 straight up ATS sweep versus San Jose State versus Air Force versus New Mexico. Now, all those teams stink, but the San Diego State back-to-back win and cover was very impressive. I understand they're undefeated ATS and Mountain West play. I'm on Colorado State, though, +8 here in this game. This is, come on, after 2 huge wins against San Diego State, you're going to tell me this team is going to play their A game tonight, the Aggies? Those were enormous victories for them. We've seen Colorado State go on the road to beat San Diego State. Now, you think beating San Diego State's impressive at home? Well, Colorado State went to Viejas, in San Diego and beat the Aztecs. This team's capable. David Moody and company leading the way for this Rams team. They had 2 just dominant destructions over San Jose State, 90-57, 88-61 for Colorado State on the road. I think they're ready to give Utah State a game. It's not easy. Utah State's a great basketball team. They're excellent at both ends of the floor. But I think Colorado State, especially with the potential for a little bit of a hangover for Utah State after those enormous back-to-back home wins against San Diego State, I think you put all those factors together, and I think the Rams can give them a game. I like Colorado State here, +8. C-Mac, what do you think here? Good one here in the Mountain West.
Yeah, this is a good one. I like both teams a lot. Utah State got that second win. I think if Mitchell's in, like we talked about, I think San Diego State wins that second game. They kind of folded down the stretch. And free throws, Utah State made their free throws. They're just a good team, and they've covered the number. I think 8's just a little bit too much. And I have problems with Colorado State a little bit. They can get into lapses, in games. I watched both UNLV games, and I bet it. But I think it's too many points here. Like you said, I think it's a little bit of a flat spot. I think it's just too many. I'll take the 8 with Colorado State as well.
And doesn't mean Utah State won't cover. Of course, they still could. They're that good.
They could cover here. But yeah.
From a value standpoint, you can't tell me value with Utah State after 2 big home wins against San Diego State. There's definitely some inflation in the number a little bit here, up to 8. This is not a chopped liver Colorado State team. This is a very good Colorado State team, and I think they're going to show it tonight. And again, altitude doesn't bother them. I mean, a lot of teams, they struggle with that. Remember, when you go to Utah State, that altitude bothers you. It's not going to bother Colorado State. They play in the same damn circumstances and environment. So I think they're live. I think we have a good game there, and Colorado State takes it to the wire. Seton Hall, Villanova, 9-point home favorites, 140 the total. We welcome back Jay Wright's team. I didn't even know they were still in college basketball anymore. The Villanova Wildcats. I haven't seen them in a month because of COVID shutdown. And for that reason, I'm worried about what we get from them. Now, some teams, they do show no hangover whatsoever after a long absence. Some teams do. But this is not an easy team to face in your first game when you haven't played in forever. This Seton Hall group, I don't know if Villanova is going to handle it all that well. And let's be honest, if you look at Villanova's schedule, this is a great team. Nobody's going to Robinson Earl, and you've got Colin Gillespie and company. They've got the inside game. They've got the perimeter game, the backcourt. They got everything here, Villanova, to be a very good team now that they're back on the floor again. But you look at their schedule before the shutdown in December. They had Georgetown, Butler. They played weaker Big East entries. Marquette's been up and down. They won that game in impressive fashion. But Seton Hall is going to be a test for them. The question is Seton Hall ready for that test against Villanova? They had the bad loss at Creighton at 89-53. I think if this was a normal circumstance, Villanova doesn't have the hiatus, I'd be a lot more reluctant to go against them. But because it's been such a long hiatus for this Villanova team, and we do have a long-term pattern of Kevin Willard's Seton Hall group being solid in the road underdog role here, I think I'm going to back Seton Hall here, +9. I'm just not convinced that Villanova is just going to be, hitting their stride, playing their first game in over a month. I think there could be a little, maybe even a first half, just to be safer on Seton Hall, that maybe that first 20 minutes is a bit of an adjustment for Villanova. C-Mac, what do you think here? A good one in the Big East with the Pirates and the Villanova Wildcat.
Yeah, maybe a first half bet wouldn't be bad. This team is good though. I think they have been practicing a little more than normal
Yes.
teams on this. So, and like they're a top 10, top 5 team for sure. I mean, they're that good. I think 9's a lot. Hey, I got buried here. I'll talk about it. January 6th, I took Seton Hall against Creighton. They lost 89-53.
Rings in my mind, I know. And if they play like that again,
it's ingrained in my fucking head. Anyways, I'm going back with Seton Hall. Give me the 9 points. Let's see if they can get me some revenge tonight. I don't know, but give me 9.5. I think they can hang in this game. Villanova's good, and like you said, if they had been playing throughout this shutdown, the 9 points is more. I think they could cover this. And they've been up and down though. They've been kind of like get a lead and let it slide, or earlier in the year they were having bad first halves and great second halves. So that first half bet, like you brought up, might be a good one too on Seton Hall here.
Yeah, they beat Penn State, Marquette, Xavier, very good Xavier team on the road, Seton Hall. So they've had some good road results too. It was just that one, and the most recent one against Creighton is the one that sticks in the back of your mind. Seton Hall has had a layoff too, but come on, 7 days compared to a month.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just no comparison. I think Seton Hall should still be in a little bit better rhythm. We'll see. I mean, if Villanova comes out and plays as good as they did before the hiatus, then yeah, they could win by doubles, but I'll put that to the test here tonight. Next up, and I like over actually in that game. I'm surprised that number's as low as it is, 139. Villanova's got better offensive capabilities this year, and their defense is still very good, but not quite as good. But their offense is a lot better. I find they can score the ball a lot better this year, Villanova. So I think they're a sneaky over team. I would look over 139 in that one, 139.5 with that total. Duke versus Pitt. Duke 4-point favorites on the road, 144 the total. I don't know where that came from Pitt. Nearly a century mark worth of points against Syracuse on the weekend. I can't think they're going to duplicate that here. But you got to give them credit. I mean, Pitt is not the most talented group in this team in this conference, no question. But they had their best offensive game of the season. They're playing a Duke team that I don't care who they're playing. I'm not trusting Duke -4 on the road. Talked about it all season. This Duke team on the road is a worry. They've got to show me they can go on the road, win games, cover numbers. I faded them the last time they were on the road against Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech beat them. Problem is Virginia Tech's a lot better than Pitt. So I'm not taking Pitt here either. It's a pass. But I'd be worried about – I got to see something from Duke on the road before I'm saying, hey, Duke, -4 on the road. I like that. No, they got to show me that they can put teams away on the road. Haven't done that consistently. And maybe Pitt's found a little something with that win against Syracuse. You'd hold the door open. Maybe they're a team that you got to be ready to play if you're going to beat them. So, and don't forget the little factor of Jeff Capel. Used to be a Coach K assistant at Duke. Knows that program. I think probably knows some of those players that still play at Duke. Inside and out. So maybe a little bit of a coaching situation that's good for Jeff Capel there for Pitt tonight. But for me, it's a pass. I mean, I think the talent is still better for Duke, but I'm just not ready to lay points with them on the road, flat out. C-Mac, what do you think here? Duke Pitt.
Yeah, I can't lay points with Duke on the road. They got the more talent here. They've owned Pitt. I had Pitt versus Syracuse, and I just, if I can get 5, you got 4.5. It's not a huge play, but I'm going to take Pitt a little bit here, getting the 4.5 at home. I don't know if they found something against Syracuse. I think Syracuse is just kind of bad defensively, but they did make shots, Pitt. But they're at home, and this is where they play better, Pitt does, than on the road. Normally, they're, so I think they're catching points, almost 5. Give me Pitt at home, plus 4.5.
All right, liking Pitt plus 4.5. The chat liking, some people liking Duke in the chat. We'll see. I mean, I'm not saying they can't cover. I've got to see it first. Alabama, LSU. This is one team I can back with confidence on the road. Alabama 1-point road favorites, 164.5 the total. All Alabama's doing is winning and covering and looking impressive. Injuries be damned. Quinterly and all these different guys that have been in and out due to injuries, and all they do is keep on keeping on, rolling teams left and right. Just impressive. Beat down Arkansas. Beat down Kentucky. At Rupp Arena, no less. What can you say about Alabama? They're a freight train right now. They're a juggernaut. Now, all good things must come to an end. I
Yeah.
just don't know if that end is tonight. LSU's not playing any defense. They are horrendous at that end of the basketball floor. I like some of their offensive players, Tremont Waters and company, but to me, this is a team that just is a Darius Days as well. But to me, this is just a team that is not very good at defensively. And that's going to be an issue because Alabama, not lately, has come on defensively and played a lot better. I think that's where the difference is. You're going to get me a pick 'em price with the better team. To me, that's Alabama. They're on a roll. They've shown no issues lately, beating good teams on the road, aka Kentucky, among others. They've gone on Tennessee. Let's not forget what they did there. I mean, where's the evidence that Alabama can't go into LSU and win when they're the better of these two teams in my mind? So to me, at a pick 'em price, absolutely, I like Alabama here. I also lean over. Don't like the total as much as the side. Small play on the
Yeah.
over, but because I just think even Alabama, with their improvement defensively, they can hang
Exactly.
probably 80s, 90s in this game at least with LSU, how bad they are defense. They just gave up 80 for crying out loud to South Carolina. What on
Yeah.
earth could Alabama do to them here tonight? So I like Alabama, smaller on the over. Conor, what do you think? Alabama, LSU. Basketball rivalry, not football. This is Alabama,
Yeah.
LSU basketball.
Yeah, basketball. I lean Alabama too. The difference is the defense. See, I lean the over, but LSU plays no defense. So I think Alabama will just go with that. And that's why it could go over this huge total. I mean, 164.5. But Bama, what you've said, that's the games I watched, Tennessee, Kentucky, they played great defense. So that has me a little leery, but I think LSU, they're going to want to get up and down. I got to lean Bama here, -1. Last year, Bama was like 4 or 5-0, and they went to LSU and lost. People are pretty high on them. I remember that game. This is the same type thing. We'll see if they can get over it here tonight. Because remember how you talked about these games, these conference games, and every 3 days, and you'll just look and boom, they just have a day off and catch an L. But Alabama to me is the more rounded team, and they're just got to win the game. I'll take Alabama.
Yeah, I mean, to me, that's what you're hoping for is an off night for Alabama, which, is probably when you've been on this kind of run for this long, that an off night could happen at some point. Hopefully not tonight, but if it doesn't, they'll take care of business. They're better than LSU if that's the case. Next up, Mississippi, Ole Miss and Mississippi State. Mississippi State 2.5 point home favorites here at 130.5 the total in this one. It's been a real struggle for Ole Miss. I wouldn't want Ole Miss here. Their only win is against Auburn. And again, it's not who you played, but when you played them. They played Auburn January 6th. They didn't have Sharif Cooper at that point, Auburn. They didn't transform yet into the team that they've been the last few games, where I think they're 3-0 now, straight up in ATS since they got Sharif Cooper on the floor. Yeah, well, Ole Miss's only conference win was against Auburn without him. So you have to devalue that win against Auburn than if you beat them down the road with Cooper in there. It's like two different teams. Auburn was a mess back then. So that's it for Ole Miss. They got pummeled by Alabama. They lost at home to Wichita State. They got destroyed by LSU by 14, lose by 9 at Florida, and they collapsed. They were leading that game and found a way to lose. And to lose by 4 at home against Georgia as 8-point home favorites in their last game, wow. There's problems for Ole Miss. This is one of those situations where they're just it's too much of a tailspin to avoid betting against them here. Mississippi State, I think, can get it done. They're off a nice home win against Florida. I took Mississippi State in that one. 72-69 was that one. I know they disappointed me last week with A&M, but was able to get it back with them against Florida. These are Mississippi State has at least shown you a pulse. They have a win against Missouri on their resume. They hung tough with Dayton, lost in overtime. Hung tough with Kentucky, lost that game in overtime. I just think they're certainly more confident, they're in better form, and I just worry that this is a fragile, made of glass confidence level right now for this Ole Miss team, which is a shame because Kermit Davis is a really good coach, but he's got a little bit of a crisis of confidence on his hands with his Ole Miss Rebels team right now. I think the price is cheap enough. You can lay it here with Mississippi State. I actually will probably go money line instead, around -145, just to get the home win. C-Mac, what do you think here? Mississippi State hosting Ole Miss.
I'm with you too. I think the number's short here at 2. I think Mississippi, they're just the better team. They're, right now. They play tough games. Like you said, they beat Missouri. That A&M is still in my head a little bit. That's why I'm a little leery. but I think they can take care of at home here in this rivalry. I think they can win here by margin of 2. And like you said, if you don't feel comfortable with that, take it money line. But I'm with you here. I'm on Mississippi State.
Well, I'm going to steal a CMAC phrase. You nailed it with what you just said there about Ole Miss and Mississippi State. In terms of the rivalry, you mentioned that key word, rivalry. I think that's what's going to keep Mississippi State focused and pedaled to the floor for the full 40 minutes. Unlike the A&M game where they got up so big at halftime and they basically just, fell asleep. I don't think that's going to happen when you're playing a rival like Ole Miss is. And if that's the case, I think Mississippi State will get the win and the cover here. We'll wrap it up with the final game on the main board. Then we'll get to the added board and best bets to wrap up the show. San Diego, Loyola, Marymount. We've got the Loyola Marymount Lions here, minus 9.5, 135.5 the total in this game. It's really, really tricky because San Diego has covered a couple of times on the road, and then there's a couple of times they've been absolutely annihilated away from home. They hung in there against San Francisco, but they also have gotten blown out, by Pacific, Nevada. They lose by 6 against Santa Clara in their last road game. So it's tricky to trust San Diego at times. The hit or miss with their road results. Loyola Marymount playing pretty good basketball, especially here at home. They beat UCSB, beat Irvine, beat Cal Poly by 24, beat San Francisco. A solid Don's team at home. This has been a pretty solid Loyola Marymount group. They've played pretty good basketball. This is also a Loyola Marymount team. They've picked up the pace a little bit. You have a new head coach who's coming from a system where he, played a little bit more up-tempo, faster-paced basketball, and he's brought it a little bit to Loyola Marymount here in this game. On the flip side, you look at San Diego in their recent results. You have seen them struggle a little bit offensively for sure. No question. 53, 62, 63 in their last few games. I'd like to lean to this game over the total. But I'm not sure it'll get there because I don't know if San Diego is going to do enough offensively. My lean would be to the over. I don't have much on the side. So it's for me just a small lean to the over here in the mid 130s. But that's about it. CMAC, what do you think here with the Toreros and the Lions?
Yeah, they maybe could get up and over that number. I think so, but sometimes they can go slow. I'd lean Loyola here. I've been on them a few times this year. They're a pretty good basketball team. San Diego's not. They play okay at home. They can get you a cover too. I don't like them in this spot. I'm not playing it because I think 9.5 is too much. It opened at 10. Yeah. But the lean would be Loyola here, minus 9.5. I just think them laying almost double digits, I don't love it. So it's a pass for me, but I'd lean Loyola.
All right, lean to Loyola for Conor Mack in this one. San Diego, Loyola Marymount. All right, we are going to now go down to the added board, I should say, for a couple of opinions. There's not many. There's only 4 games on the added board. I actually have overs in 3 of them. The High Point Longwood game, over 131.5. Winthrop Presbyterian, I actually have over 146 in that game. It's 148.5 now. It's gone up. Look, that's a low total for Winthrop. I get Presbyterian has their issues offensively, but Winthrop is a very fast-paced, good offensive team. I'm going to trust them to dictate the pace. They can get over into the 150s there. And same with NC Asheville, Gardner-Webb. I've cashed a few overs with both of those teams lately, Asheville and Gardner-Webb. They're playing each other. I think we get more of the same there. So we got a trifecta of overs for me on the added board. Longwood game, the Winthrop game, and the NC Asheville game on the added board. Did you see anything on the added board you wanted to bet, CMAC, or no?
I lean the over in the Asheville Gardner-Webb, and I like Asheville a little bit in that game. I'd like to take 16 points. Winthrop can probably name that number, but that's a lot of points. I just a lean to the Blue Hose, my Blue Hose out there, Presbyterian. Plus 16, but just a lean.
One of the better names, Blue Hose in college basketball. That's not H-O-E-S, that's H-O-S-E. By the way, we just want to make sure we specify that here. Not those type of hoes, no. All right, so before we get to best bets, Conor, what are those Pub Sports Radio sponsors telling us today?
We need to go. Everyone needs an extra book. You got to have multiple books. Go to mybookie.ag at promo code Pub Sports. You get 50% off your deposit, credit or debit. You get 100% off Bitcoin. So you put 1,000, they give you 1,000. If you use debit or credit, you put 1,000, they give you 500. And go to bulksupplements.com, hit promo code PubSports. You get 10% off your order. Get all the vitamins you need, all the protein, creatine, all that stuff. Go to bulksupplements.com. And that's it.
There we go. All right, Connor, where are you going for a Tuesday night college basketball closing time best bet?
I have a few of them, but I'm going to go back because I just don't think this team, they got to prove it to me at home. I'm going to take Miami plus 4.5. I think they could win it outright, but I think they cover at Syracuse here.
All right, Miami Hurricanes plus 4.5 against Syracuse. Connor Mack with his best bet. I'm gonna be bold. This is a bold best bet. I'm struggling anyway. Let's go go big or go home. Go bold or go home. I'm making a best bet against a team that has covered 8 straight in conference
I like
play.
it.
Colorado State, folks, plus 8.5 is the best number at bookmaker/Chris. Colorado State plus 8.5 against Utah State. Let's go with that. Best bet for the Tuesday college basketball closing time show. Colorado State to get it done. At least can be competitive and hang in there against a surging Utah State team. Although coming off their 2 biggest wins of the year back-to-back against San Diego State, I think there could be a little bit of a hangover in effect from those 2 games. So Colorado State for me plus 8.5 against Utah State for my Pub Sports Radio college basketball closing time best bet. That'll wrap up the show. Thank you to everyone for tuning in. We appreciate it. We had 100 views, live viewers at one point in this show. We really appreciate it. Everybody, Paco Healy, Ryan, Ricky, Marlon, Guillermo Zertucci. I will have a play of the day video. I'm recording it right after this show for Pub Sports Radio. That'll be up on the channel in just a little bit. My NHL play of the day. I've had a few days off from doing them, but we're going to get back into the regular routine of doing them every day here on the channel. So look forward to that. We'll be back with you twice tomorrow. We've got 2 shows, college basketball closing time, Connor and I, 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific, and then it'll be Ski and I, 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific with the NBA closing time show on Wednesday. So make sure you tune in for that and tune into all the great content daily right here on the Pub Sports Radio YouTube channel. For CMAC, I'm Ian Cameron. Have a great Tuesday. Enjoy the games and good luck. We'll see you again tomorrow right here on the college basketball closing